The drama surrounding the WNBA's 2025 finals has turned into one of the most humiliating collapses in professional sports history. While league officials were busy celebrating a so-called record-breaking season, the numbers that just dropped tell a completely different story, one that's leaving fans, analysts, and even players in disbelief. What was supposed to be the grand showcase of women's basketball, the moment that validated years of growth and progress, has instead become the biggest embarrassment the WNBA has ever faced. Tickets for the championship finals, not preseason games, not regular matchups, but the actual finals, were selling for $6. $6 for the biggest event of the year. You couldn't even buy a bucket of popcorn at the arena for that price. Parking in most venues cost more than that. To make things worse, these weren't nosebleed seats for a meaningless game. These were prime seats for the league's most important series. The same seats that just months ago, when Caitlyn Clark and the Indiana Fever were playing in that very arena, were going for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Back then, the Fever were the hottest ticket in town. Courtside seats during Clark's games were starting at $2,000, with resale prices soaring even higher. It felt like the WNBA had finally arrived. Arenas were packed. Fans were chanting her name. Broadcasters were struggling to keep up with the demand for coverage. But when the finals rolled around without Clark, it was as if someone flipped a switch. The energy was gone. The excitement was gone. And so were the fans. The contrast was staggering. Just a few months earlier, Fever games had been the center of the sports world. They were appointment viewing, filled with viral highlights and electric moments. Now, during what was supposed to be the league's crown jewel event, the atmosphere felt lifeless. Entire sections were empty. Tickets were being sold for less than the processing fee on Ticketmaster. And as shocking as that sounds, the reality behind it was even worse. The truth is, the WNBA fumbled the Caitlyn Clark era, and they did it spectacularly. She wasn't just a rookie, she was a cultural phenomenon. Clark didn't just bring attention to women's basketball, she redefined it. Every game she played drew record-breaking numbers. Merchandise sales skyrocketed. Networks fought over broadcasting rights. People who had never watched the WNBA before were suddenly tuning in religiously. For a moment, the league had lightning in a bottle. But instead of nurturing that momentum, they squandered it. When Clark's Fever were eliminated from the playoffs, the magic disappeared overnight. The league's casual audience vanished. Social media went silent, and the finals became an afterthought. The hard truth is that the WNBA's popularity this year wasn't driven by collective growth. It was driven by one player. The league tried to pretend otherwise, pushing a narrative of league-wide success. But once Clark was gone, the facade crumbled. To make matters worse, some of the league's biggest names didn't handle the situation gracefully. After Game 2 of the finals, four-time MVP A'ja Wilson had what fans are calling an epic meltdown. Instead of acknowledging the lack of buzz surrounding the finals or the league's ongoing marketing and officiating failures, Wilson pointed fingers more at Caitlyn Clark's fans. She claimed that Clark's supporters weren't real basketball fans, blaming them for not watching games that didn't feature their favorite player. It was a stunning display of deflection. The most popular player in the league was being blamed for the league's inability to sustain interest without her. Sophie Cunningham, one of the few voices of reason, called it how it is. She reminded everyone that you can't guilt fans into caring, you have to give them a product worth watching. And she's right. The WNBA finals didn't fail because fans are disloyal. They failed because the league stopped giving them a reason to show up. The officiating was inconsistent all year, the marketing tone-deaf, and the storylines forced. Even die-hard fans noticed how rigged the officiating seemed at times, especially during the Fever's playoff run when Clark was repeatedly fouled with no calls. Meanwhile, other stars received superstar treatment. It was obvious. And when fans feel like the league is sabotaging its most marketable player, they stop watching. The WNBA's response was predictable. Silence. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert brushed off questions, issuing the same corporate statements about improving officiating and continuing to grow the game. But the damage was already done. The finals television ratings hit decade-long lows. Advertisers pulled back. Networks that had spent all year hyping up record engagement suddenly went quiet. What was supposed to be a breakthrough year turned into a nightmare. Behind closed doors, the financial implications are starting to sink in. The Players Association is preparing for major contract negotiations. They want higher pay, better conditions, and fairer treatment. But how do you demand more money when your championship games can't sell tickets for more than a burrito? Owners and broadcasters are already preparing to use this collapse as ammunition. They'll point to the empty seats, the plummeting ratings, and the dismal ticket sales as proof that the league still isn't sustainable. And they're not entirely wrong. The league's momentum wasn't built on structural growth. It was built on the Caitlyn Clark effect. She brought the attention, the fans, and the revenue. Once she was gone, the illusion of success vanished. Even in Phoenix, during the Mercury's home games in the finals, tickets were being sold for under $25. Entire rows in the lower bowl were empty. For a championship series, that's catastrophic. The sad truth is that the finals weren't just poorly attended, they were boring. There were no compelling rivalries, no memorable storylines, no sense of drama. The Aces versus Mercury matchup felt like a technical scrimmage, not a championship showdown. Players went through the motions. The crowd energy was non-existent. It was a lifeless finale to what should have been a landmark season. Compare that to when Caitlyn Clark was on the court. Every Fever game was a spectacle. Fans lined up hours before tip-off just to get a glimpse of her warm-ups. The arenas pulsed with energy. Social media was flooded with highlight reels before games even ended. The league finally had its superstar, someone who could do for women's basketball what Jordan did for the NBA. And yet, instead of protecting her, celebrating her, and building around her, the league treated her like a problem. They allowed constant physical targeting. They ignored biased officiating. They downplayed her impact, and in doing so, they alienated the very fans who had made the WNBA relevant again. Now, as the finals become a national punchline, the consequences are clear. Sponsors are questioning their investments. Networks are reconsidering their broadcast commitments. Players who deserve bigger contracts may soon find themselves with less bargaining power. The league that was once on the verge of breaking through is now scrambling to justify its own existence. The memes tell the story better than any statistic ever could. Fans are joking that you can buy tickets to every remaining finals game for less than a tank of gas. Others point out that Caitlyn Clark's signature shoes cost more than courtside seats. Social media has turned the WNBA finals into a meme, and that's devastating for a league trying to gain respect. Here's the bitter truth. Skill doesn't sell tickets. Storylines do. Star power does. Emotional connection does. And the league had that with Clark, but it refused to embrace it. Instead of using her rise to elevate everyone else, it tried to downplay her influence. Instead of protecting her from biased officiating, it allowed narratives of resentment and jealousy to fester.